ticking clock.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another exciting episode of Hanging Out with Chops. My name is Choppy Chops. I'm an engineer, a recording engineer by trade. Like always, I'd like to send a big shout out to all you returning listeners and to all you here for the first time. Thank you for joining us. We're going to have a lot of fun today. Guys, I'm going to try my hand in a series. So this is going to be a multi-part podcast. I'm not sure if this is going to be 2 episodes, 3 episodes, or maybe 4 episodes. But as we get into this and as I lay it down, we'll figure out how many podcasts this is going to take. But what I want to cover, this is going to be informal. This is going to be me and you hanging out. Let's say this is me and you before a show, me and you after a show, me and you catching a flight together, me and you sitting on the bus together, whatever the case may be. But let's say this is the question. Hey, Chops, I'm finally going to record, or me and my band are going to record. Give me a breakdown, help us out. So that's what I'm going to do, guys. Let's get ready to record. Right off the bat, I'd say let's shoot for 3 episodes. Let's try pre-production, and then we'll do production, and then we'll do post-production. It might get a little more involved. It might get to actual pre-production, production, and then editing, then post-production, but we'll see. I know some of you veterans might be out there like, what? What's this guy talking about? But like I said, this is real informal. This is just the steps that I would take to help out a bro or a girl. I just say bro because, I deal with a lot of guys here. But hey, anybody else who wants to record, hey bro, give me some tips. Let me know what I'm in for. So let's break it down like this. This episode will be pre-production. This is before you get to the studio. Let's get all our ducks in a row. Sound good to you? All right, sounds good to me. Here we go, guys. You're hanging out with Chops. Let's do this.
We're hanging out with Chops. Time just never stops. Answers fade like drops on a broken ticking clock.
All right, guys. Pre-production. What in the world are you talking about? Pre-production, I would say everything that happens before you get to the studio. Let's break it down in categories. I would say let's start with category 1. We're not even talking about songs yet. We're not even talking about arrangements. We're not talking about anything else. We're just talking about gear. Hey, we're getting ready to do this. We got a session in a month. All right, guys. Let's break it down first with gear. Guitar players, bass players. Let's start with stringed instruments. Let's get all the noise out of your instrument. All the buzzing, all the cracking, all the humming, all the 60 cycle hums. Let's get all that out of the way first. Spend some time. If you know how to do it, great. Work on your gear. If you don't know how to do it, take it to a shop. Go to a guitar tech, your local guitar shop. Those guys are awesome. They know what they're doing. That's their gig. And tell them what's up. Hey, bro, I need a good setup. I'm going to go record, and I want to make sure that this guitar, this bass is in tip-top shape. One of the things they probably will tell you is, hey, when's the last time you strobe tuned this guitar? When's the last time you strobe tuned this bass? Oh, I don't even know. I really just tune, I tune EADG and let's go. Or EADG-BE, go. Or you do some weird, awkward tuning. But if you look down at your guitar, your bass, that back bridge part should be tuned as well, It's not a cosmetic thing. You really should have that professionally tuned. Now, of course, I might be talking about stuff that you already know, but a lot of you may not know. It would make sense if, for example, you play open G, you play open D, you play open C chord, and then all of a sudden you start barring up pretty high, F sharp minor, E major, up on, fret 5, fret 7, fret 9. You're like, man, for some reason it just sounds out of tune up here. Yeah, it's probably because you haven't had your guitar or your bass set up the right way and probably strobe tuned the right way. So I would say that, guys, start with that. Use instrument players, especially string instrument players, and that would be of immense value to you. Your instrument would stay more in tune and in tune longer And plus, also, get yourself a new set of strings. Maybe a new set of string and a backup set. And throw them on there, and not the day of recording. We discussed this on another podcast of, session killers, of the guy who wants to put new strings on the day of the session, Put them on a couple of days before. Let them stretch. Check out your amps. If you're going to use amps, sometimes guys don't use amps. Sometimes you go direct, which is cool. As an engineer, I love it when guys go direct, But sometimes there is a specific tone that you want out of your amp. Make sure you work on your amp. Your amp shouldn't be making all these sounds, and you want to make sure that your amp has got some good, nice tone to it without all this extra noise that has nothing to do when you're recording. If you're a tube amp guy, hey, check out your tubes. If they're really worn, consider throwing in some fresh tubes in it. You want to get the best out of your instrument. Plus, also, the facility you may go record at may also have guitars or basses that you can use. I really wouldn't worry about those for the most part. They usually have those ready to go, strung up, ready to record with, and are pretty good condition. Sometimes guys don't have really good instruments, and they call me all the time, hey, by the way, would you happen to have a bass there? And I'll ask them, yeah, what do you play on? A 4, 5, 6, what do you play on? And they'll tell me, yeah, I'm used to a 5. Yeah, I got one. A 6, yeah, we got one here, Of the great 6-string Spectre that I always joke. It's fat guy friendly because it's got, like the concave back on it. So if you're a fat guy, it seems like it wraps around your belly. Anyway, to me, it's funny. All right, guys, moving on to drums. If you're bringing your own drums, obviously new heads and not the day of. Whether it's clear coat or coated or whatever it is that you like, throw them on there. Stretch them out. Get some moon gels if you got some ringing. You want to get the best, most pristine sound out of your instrument before you get there. You want to work all these kinks out. One of the most important aspects of pre-production is the cost-saving aspect of this section that we're discussing. Really, guys, this is where you can really save your budget, is getting all these possible trouble issues out of the way now. That extends to everybody else. Horn players, get your reeds, sand them down, find reeds that have good hearts in them. Not just one, get a couple of them. Trumpet players, valve slides. Horn players tend to take it a little more seriously, so especially sax players, they might not walk in with 1 or 2 reeds. Some of these guys walk in, with a waterlogged set of 50 reeds, ready to fire. But you want to get all that out of the way. Trombone players, valve slide, valve grease, all that good stuff. You want to have all of that before you get here. The last thing you want is to cut a session longer because you had to run to the music store. So gear, guys, let's get all the gear ready before we ever show up. Now, you don't have to go crazy. If you want to clean it up and all that stuff, fine. That, to me, that doesn't matter. I could care less what a guitar looks like. A polished guitar and an unpolished guitar in the hands of a crappy player is not going to make a difference. A clean or unshined or whatever guitar in a great guitar player's hands, it's going to sound great regardless. And I would say from there on out, that would extend to all the other instruments. Percussionists, if your skins sound good, go with it. Maybe if you got real heads on there, like with real skins, you may want to consider, taking them off, re-oiling them, putting them out in the sun, the procedure. You got synthetic head, there's not much you can do with synthetic heads, outside of maybe possibly going buying a new set. Outside of that, everybody else get ready. Vibe players, accordion players, fiddle players, steel guitar players. The main focus that we want is we want to make sure that we can find problems now before we go in the studio. So there it is. Number 1, get your gear in line. Get your gear in check. All right, guys. let's move on. So we talked about, sorry, I had to get a little snack. So we talked about preparing the gear, the fresh drum heads, tuning the instruments, reeds, slide grease, all that good stuff. All the mechanical stuff that we need to do before we even lay down a single note. But now let's move to the material. What are we going to record? Guys, recording is expensive. Studio time flies by quick. Musicians get tired. The worst part is the decisions, they start to pile up. Okay, that's bite. So the more problems you solve before the red light turns on, the better the record will be. So what we're going to look at now is the songs themselves. This sounds obvious, but it happens all the time. When a band comes in with songs, and I'm using air quotes, sometimes it's just a verse and a chorus. Sometimes it's like a cool riff. Sometimes it's like a lyric concept. Hey man, I kind of have this idea about I want to write a song about cruising down the desert. We got the convertible down and whatever. They have some kind of lyrical concept. But the structure, it might not be settled yet. And then what winds up happening is kind of the studio starts to become the writing room. And that's where it gets dangerous. I shouldn't say dangerous. That's where it starts to get expensive because the clock's running. And the last thing you want to do is start rushing creativity because you see the clock ticking. So one of the big things you want to knock out at this point is the song finished? If it's not, what do we need? Where's the intro? Where's the chorus? Where are the verses? What's the bridge sound like? How does the song end? What we're talking about here is the roadmap of the song. Does the song already have a roadmap? If not, build a roadmap for the song. Where I see younger bands struggle is not because they're not talented. It's because they lived with the songs inside the rehearsal room, but they never really tried to record them or throw them down. When you step back and listen like a listener, you start to ask the normal questions listener would ask. Was the intro too long? Did the chorus take too long to get in? Were we late to the chorus? Does the bridge fit the song? Sometimes just moving a section around can move everything. You can change everything. A lot of times, one of the things I do tell a band is, hey dude, let's get to the hook. Get to the hook. You're taking way too long. You're trying to keep the listener engaged for 2 minutes before you drop the hook. That's way too long. Even I would have checked out. The tempo can make or break a song. Too slow and it drags. Too fast and it seems to be like non-emotional. Sometimes the band has played the song the same way for months and nobody questions the tempo. But once you start recording, then suddenly everybody starts to feel it. So where you want to experiment is in pre-production. Hey guys, let's go up a couple of clicks on this, or let's slow it down. Let's see what it feels like. You slow it down, hey, that impossible riff that you were trying to play now is locking in. Or a little bit faster, and all those really long words you were having to stretch out now fit better. So tempo is very important at this aspect. The key. A lot of times the keys are kind of picked by what feels good. Hey, if the piano player wrote it, it would be natural that he would be playing it in a key that feels good to him because he wrote the song. Same thing with a guitar player. But you might be killing the vocalist. Maybe that high note is just too high for him. Or the verses are just sitting too low. He's losing energy. Pre-production is where you want to test all that. Let's move up the key. Let's drop the key. Or sometimes I do this as well. I'll change the key. Hey guys, that first part is just way too low. So let's do this. Let's keep everything the same except let's move it up. So instead of E flat, let's do the verses in G. And when we hit the chorus, let's do that in E flat. Let's find some nice transitional chords to get us down to E flat. And now it's in a singable range for the singer. Anyway, that gets into my next one, which would be arrangement. Who plays what? You don't want every single instrument playing every single time. It's like the annoying singer who's singing along with a guitar solo. Or the horn player that plays through the entire song. Or the organ player that... No, I mean, everyone has their spot. If there's one player that should play through the whole song, it's probably the drummer. But outside of him, and even him, He might have sections where he actually drops out. Sometimes some of the best things you can do is, hey, drop out people in certain parts. Hey, let's drop out the guitar in the verse. Let the bass carry the intro. Add the harmonies the second time instead of the first time. The arrangement. And what we're getting at, whether we're talking about arrangement, or whether we're talking about tempo, or whether we're talking about keys, what we're trying to do is lock this in. What we're trying to get is, let's get the guessing out of the equation. Let's get the hey, how does it go? No, we already know. Song 1 is this. It's this tempo, it's this key, and this is the arrangement. I started, and you come in. By the time we hit the vocals, it's this. There's a roadmap. We're not guessing. Vocals. Is this a solo vocal the whole way? Is there harmonies at any time? Do we have shout choruses where the whole band sings? Where's like the peak of the song? Where's the hook? Are we doing any kind of fancy telephone sound effect or megaphone sound effect? I mean, that might get more into the production side, but start having the ideas of our vocal line ready to go. I can't iterate this enough. The main goal of pre-production, it's pretty simple, is you want to get the uncertainty of it out before you start recording. You want to make sure that when you get to the studio, the song works. You want to get there knowing that the tempo works. You want to get there knowing that the key works, that the arrangement works. When you get to the studio, you only want to be focusing on capturing the performance, not fixing the problems. Once you get that, that's when it becomes fun. Because now you can let your hair down. There's no guessing. Now, once the songs are ready, I move to our next step, rehearsals. This is where a lot of bands think they're prepared. They'll say stuff like, yeah, we've been rehearsing this for months. And that's great. But rehearsing and recording are two different worlds. Because when you're rehearsing, and again, I'm using air quotes, when you're rehearsing, you're kind of in this jam room. It's loud. You're kind of feeding off each other. Mistakes tend to get by. Nobody ever really stops a song. You just kind of have one goal, start it and finish it. But in the studio, everything's exposed. Every instrument is isolated. Every timing issue will be exposed. Every little hesitation in the groove becomes really obvious. You can tell when a keyboard player is playing in a hard key. Same thing with horn players. You can tell when a horn player is playing a hard key. Same thing with vocalists. You can tell when a vocalist is singing in a key that doesn't feel comfortable because it's too high or too low. All this can be resolved in this step. Gotta remember, man, when you're in there, you're under a microscope. I don't call it. It's called the red light effect. For some reason, the moment I hit the record button, everyone plays different. Musicians tighten up, and I see it on guitar players all the time. I'm like, dude, that chord is really out of tune. And then what do I see them do? Hit their tuner, and then they're doing, and they tune up again, and there's your guitar perfectly in tune. They strum the guitar, sounds great. There's the chord, sounds perfectly in tune. And then we start recording, and they're out of tune. Then I have to tell them, hey, dude, look at your hand, bro. You're strangling the neck. You're pulling on those strings so hard that you're pulling down on them or you're pushing up on them. Relax. Just chill out because you're playing really, really out of tune. Some dudes just forget the part they've been playing 100 times. It's not because they're bad musicians. It's the psychology of recording. A lot of times I tend to get better takes out of dudes. There I go again. I tend to get better performances out of people when I tell them, hey, let's just run through it, but I'm really recording them. Hey guys, real quick, I gotta set some levels, just jam through it a couple times, and they will, and they'll play it 2-3 times, and the whole time I'm recording it, and then I'll be like, all right, dude, that sounds good. Y'all want to come in and listen to it and see which one of these takes you like? Oh man, I didn't even know we're recording. And they'll inevitably listen to maybe one or two of the cuts and be like, hey, dude, cut 2 is pretty good. Let's build on that one. Another big part of pre-production is the discussion of a click track. Some bands love it, some bands hate it. Some musicians feel like it steals a groove. The truth is, if the band is going to record to a click, they need to rehearse with a click before they get here. I could go either way. But hey, if you're gonna record with a click here, Don't let it be the first time you ever try it here. Work with a click track outside of the studio before you get here, so it's not so foreign to you. And not just that, but what kind of click? You know, some guys just like a click on the downbeat, you know, just straight down. Some guys like up and down, tick, 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 whatever. Some guys might even do, on a slow song, I could see sometimes you may want to do 16s, especially if it's really slow and this is a tempo, you know. It might be easier just to have a click go, or 1E and a 2E and a 3E. There you go. If this is a tempo, you may have the click go 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E. Especially if you're playing like that. Anyway, getting off on a tangent there, but how important the click is. Another thing that you can knock out during the rehearsals is endurance. It's easy to play the song one time. When you gotta play it a couple times in a row, or if you gotta play multi-songs all the way through, it's different, guys. Drummers get tired, singers get tired, especially singers. You know, a lot of times when we're just running through stuff here, I'll tell the singer, hey, dude, take it down an octave, or maybe even just mouth the words, but I don't need you full force. Same thing with like brass players. Unless it's a take I'm trying to keep, I'll tell them, hey, dude, don't go all out right now. You know, don't kill your chops on this take, especially if it's just a run through. Again, the main focus of the rehearsal part of this is that nothing now at this point should feel unfamiliar. You know, the song should feel very natural. The structure should just be automatic. You should kind of come in already on autopilot. The tempo should feel comfortable. You know, you shouldn't be struggling with the tempo. There's not a lot of thinking at this point. It's just performing it. That's really when the magic happens. When you get the thinking out of the way and you're just kind of just laying it down. All right, guys. Now, once we got the rehearsals down, I think you got to demo the songs. I'm not talking about a polished product. Well, I mean, we can go two ways. Let's break this down into even two other sections. You want to demo the songs. I don't care if it's your phone or if it's a tape recorder or whatever, but what you want to do is you want to have all the songs down so that the band can take them home and listen to them and jam along, and that's when you'll find out, boom, that's the single right there. Why? Because that's the one I keep thinking about. That's the one that's the most memorable. This is the song that I like. And once you hear them over and over again, you start to realize, hey, you know, cut 3, that song sucks. We just got to drop it, guys. Yeah, you're right. I'm not feeling that one. Okay. Or you could be like, hey, dude, you know what? Song 7 sounds good, but I wish we would get to this part quicker. You know, I think that's like the cool part of the song. Maybe we can move it up, or maybe we can just scrap the whole song, but let's keep that and let's build off it. The familiarity that starts to build when you demo out the songs really takes your project to the next level. Now, the second part of this would be, now this is rather advanced, but if let's say there's an engineer in the band, I would say record the entire album at home. Because really what you're trying to do when you come to a professional studio is you want to take advantage of the space, because that's what you don't have at home, or that's what you don't have in your project studio at home. You don't have drum rooms to pick from. You don't have drum sets to pick from, you know. You don't have vocal booths to choose from, you know. That's why you come to the studio, because you don't have the bigness and the largeness of what we have here. But outside of maybe a good preamp that I might have here, recording your keyboard tracks at home and recording them here are going to be the same thing. So I have bands now. When we started pretty much the same way with pre-production, but actually pre-production being done here. And when I realized that, hey, dude, there's an engineer here in the group who's maybe a beginner engineer, but he's starting to get the flow of things, I'll tell him, hey, dude, watch me record your first album, because I want you to start doing this at home. And I want you to start bringing me a more finished product to start. So, you know, the first album, I'll do it all here. Second album, they do a little more pre-production. By the time the third album comes in, they're bringing in a finished album that just needs to be recut. They need to recut the same drum part, but on our drums, or with our drum mics, or with our drums and our drum mics and our drum preamps and our drum space. Same thing with bass. They might do the same bass, but they might just recut it here, or some of it may stay. Now some of these guys are like, hey, some of the more unimportant parts that we could do at home, they already do. They'll do key parts at home. They'll do piano parts at home. They'll do percussion parts at home. And they're really here just to record bass, guitar, drums, vocals. Stuff that they need a large space for. So demo work is so important, whether it's just a very basic, hey, I'm going to demo this out on my phone, or I'm going to go ahead and just throw down the entire album, and by the time they bring it to me, I got everything there. I got tempos, I got click tracks, I got sometimes parts of the song already done, and all we're doing is we're latching onto that, and we're just throwing on our new instruments. Wow, guys, this is so much. Now that I'm actually talking about it, I'm trying to realize that maybe this might not even, pre-production may not even fit in one episode, but I'm going to keep trucking, because as I'm going, I'm thinking about so many other things. But I'm going to talk more real world now, guys, because this is what a lot of the guys will ask me. This might not even be things you're thinking about yet, because you're actually thinking about, hey, I'm going to be there recording, and you're picturing in your mind, yourself behind a kid, behind the guitar, behind the vocal booth, whatever the case may be, headphones on, that kind of stuff. But once the band actually decides to record, here's the whole other bunch of questions that are going to pop up. Where are you going to stay? What are you going to eat? Are you going to do day sessions, night sessions? How are you going to get here? Who needs a ride? Are you going to record together? Are you going to record individually? Cost. What's this going to cost? Is it cheaper in Studio A than Studio B? Is it cheaper in Studio C than Studio B? Is it cheaper in the pre-production room than in the studios? Now you're not talking about the recording. Now you're talking about logistics. And guys, all this is going to be important, and it's going to be cost saving if you handle it before you get here. I can tell you right now, singers are going to sound like crap at 10 in the morning. You may not want to schedule the singer in the morning. Drummers do great in the morning. Those guys are amped up. Sometimes I get here and drummers like, yeah, I already jogged outside, or I did my 30-minute prep or whatever. That's what you want to decide before you get here. Who's going to come in at what time? What I usually recommend is, guys, if you don't throw down the album at home, let's throw it down on the first day or the first 2 days, and let's throw the whole thing down, all the songs. Now, let's focus on individual parts. Get the drummer here in the morning. Let's knock out all your drum parts. Or get you and the bass player together. Those guys are done. Let's do the rest of the rhythm section. Keys, guitars, that kind of stuff. The evening is great. In my personal experience, the evening is great for singers. They've been talking all day. Their throats are warmed up. They sound horrible in the morning. I'm sorry, singers. This has been my experience. The whole travel thing. How are you going to get here? Are y'all going to ride together? Is there room for everyone and the gear? It sounds simple until that day happens. And then you're like, oh man, we should have thought about this. Yeah, I got everyone, but the bass player's amp is still at the club because we played last night. Or the guitar player's amp is here, and all the logistics. You gotta get those done all before anything happens. The food, what's gonna happen, guys? Are we packing sandwiches? Are we gonna be there 2-3 days? Hey, you're here for a week. Food gets expensive. What are we gonna do, guys? Are we gonna brown bag it? Or we have a lot of kitchens here. We got like 3 or 4 kitchens. Get yourself some cold cuts, whatever, drinks. If you want to order pizza, whatever, load up the fridge. It gets expensive to go, hey, let's go out and eat breakfast. Hey, let's go out and eat lunch. Hey, let's go out and eat dinner. Not just that, but a lot of times you can only take so many breaks, guys. If not, you'll be losing time and losing money. The budget, that's a huge one, man. The money, what's it gonna cost? How many days can you afford? Because of the budget, does that mean we can't do the album and we can only do 4 songs, 5 songs? Instead of 4 or 5 songs, that means we can only do a single. Are we gonna all record together? We're gonna do by layers, or we're gonna do some at home, or we're gonna do some here? The recording strategy, this is where you're gonna save some time. Man, I could go on this forever. All right, here's the other part, guys, and nobody's gonna like to talk about this, and it gets uncomfortable. But the songwriting, publishing, copyrights, who wrote what part? Hey, I wrote the hook. Yeah, but I wrote the verse. I gave you the melody for that, but I didn't have the words. These conversations are not fun to have. And a lot of times, just like if you go back to some of the previous podcasts, I always say I love to record second albums. I hate to record the first album for any band, because so many feelings get hurt the first time you actually go through this process. Well, how come so-and-so is going to make all the money for songwriting? Well, how come so-and-so is going to do this? And I gave them the idea, but now I didn't get any credit. And da-da-da. All that needs to... y'all are adults. I would imagine all you are adults. But even if you're kids recording, all this needs to be worked out. Figure out your percentages. Hey, guys, in this song, me, Eric, and John wrote it. 3 guys. Are we all going to split it equally? You want to do 33, 33, 33, or 33, 33, or 33.3? Hey, this other song, 4 guys wrote it. Guys, is everybody cool with splitting it 4 ways? All right, cool. No, well, that's really my song. Well, fine. You got to have that uncomfortable talk, but be adults about it. I was just about to say be a man about it, but be adults about it and have that uncomfortable talk now and get it out of the way. Get it resolved. Get it done. The last thing you want to do is have paid all the money, has spent all your time, all your resources, all your creative juices, and then at the end you can never release it because you're mad at each other. Well, he wants all the credit for this when I gave him the lyrics and da-da-da. No, hammer it all out now, guys. All this might sound boring compared to the music writing, but it's important. At the end of the day, the goal of pre-production is simple. When the band finally walks into the studio, they finally get here, the only thing left to focus on is the performance. Not the logistics, not how you got here, not about the arguments, not about the confusion. It's just the music. Then we're ready to rock. Then we're ready to throw down a great album. Guys, I could probably go on forever on this, and I'm sure once I finish, I'm going to be like, oh man, I should have mentioned this and I should have mentioned that. Pre-production might not be the most glamorous part of the record, but it's often the most important. Because the better the preparation, the smoother the session, the stronger the performances, and the better the final record will be. And once all that is in place, we move on to the next phase. Production. I'm talking about when we actually track. All right, guys. I was rambling there for a while. I didn't have like a script or anything on this one. I was just kind of just like my buddy, the rappers that come in here. I was going off the dome. You guys, I hope you enjoyed this one podcast. We'll call this podcast 1 of our series. This might be maybe a 3-parter. The next one we'll cover will be production, and then, we'll wrap up with post-production. But like always, guys, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate y'all being here. I hope you enjoyed this. I got a kick out of it. Oh, yeah. And don't forget, if you'd like to support the show, please click on the Support the Show tab at the front of this podcast. Guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for hanging out with me. See you later.
We're hanging out with chops. Time just never stops. Answers fade like drops on a broken ticking clock.